Hey, 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 hey,
Hey.
hey. It's early and I was pushing the wrong faders for a minute. And I also realized that I started the video recording part a little late. So I'm doing great. How are you
It's a
guys?
metaphor for life.
It really is, man.
Yeah.
Total metaphor.
Tatu.
So 2 days in a row. This is a first.
Well, again, that's the great thing about the quarantine.
You can do two
His
shows.
work schedules.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Then this is a great way to start the day.
Is it really?
It's like camp. Wake up and see your friends 2 days in a row. You haven't showered, or maybe you have. I haven't.
No, I haven't. No, I haven't showered in days.
Same here, Dave.
What?
What? Nothing.
Oh, what?
I said the
What?
same here.
Huh? What?
So what?
What?
Huh?
So yeah. So let's get this started because Dave, I want to know what the hell you've been talking about with these Spawn Kickstarters.
Do you? Do you? You want to
I guess
know?
not. No, I did. Okay, never mind. Change the topic then. Never mind.
Well, no, I found out that you didn't know about it, and I was very
I
surprised.
have no
last
clue what
night.
you're talking about.
Yeah, so the Spawn Kickstarter ended a few days ago, and I'm guessing it had the normal amount of time, so like a couple weeks, I guess, or maybe a month. I'm not sure. My buddy Mario, who was once on the show,
Yeah,
hips
he's
me
great.
to it, and he's kind of like my local comic book nerd and toy nerd buddy. And he texted me at like 3 a.m. one night. And he's like, "Dude, you've got to get on this right away. This is fucking amazing." And so I don't know. I think he pitched McFarlane originally pitched this as like the remix of the original Spawn toy, which is
I
not
can tell.
completely. It's not completely connecting with me. It's a new Spawn toy. Like I don't know what justifies it as a remix of the old toy.
What's weird? I noticed right away. It's just the way that the cape is.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it's similar in shape and style. But anyway, he's got all these different tiers, and it closed a few days ago, so I don't know if you can still jump on now or not, but I'm guessing not. But it closed just short of like 4 million with a $100,000 goal, which is pretty fucking awesome. I just say good for him, good for him, good for the character, good for technically indie comics, good for the creators that, the three of us seem to champion and pioneer, or not pioneer, champion time and time and time again.
Now that's friggin' cool.
Yeah, and just even beyond everything I'm saying, the figure is fucking rad. It's pretty badass. And all the stretch goals, I can't even keep track now that they went past the 100. I jumped on when it was $200,000 that they had reached, and I couldn't even keep track of all the stretch goals that have happened. But most tiers get a signed autograph and a couple of heads and a couple different weapons. There's another tier that has like what they're calling the prototype version of the figure, which is completely unpainted.
Jeez.
For a lot of nerds like me, like that's really something special and something rad, like to have. Because like honestly, I might split some hairs and ruffle some feathers here, but like I love action figures unpainted generally more often than painted. There's something about you lose. I don't know if you lose something sculpturally sometimes when there's like a heavy paint job. So it's awesome that he's catering to people that love unpainted action figures. But yeah,
not to get too nerdy, but like that thing, I don't know who's controlling those pictures.
Yeah, what do you want to say, Jason?
The picture you had of like the unmasked Spawn.
Yeah.
The first
just to do like a little nerd reference, the reason that is so damn cool is that's taken from the Spawn Batman team up. at the very end of that issue, Batman threw a batarang in his face and split it down the middle.
Yeah.
And like for years afterwards, Spawn walked around with a shoelace tying up his face.
Yeah, yeah, that's what that version is called, the shoelace face.
Which is great because, you know, most comic book crossovers, especially intercompany, like they're usually ignored. And that was Todd McFarlane's way of saying, like, this actually happened because it has permanent ramifications on my character.
Yeah, that's so awesome. That's great, Jason. Thanks for that.
Like, I even want that. I'm not even a big Spawn fan. That is awesome.
Yeah, yeah, I think I am. I think I am a big Spawn fan. I think after this, it made me realize like how much I do actually enjoy it. A lot of it's based on nostalgia, sure.
Sure.
But,
this isn't, you know, I don't like being too negative. To me, the story doesn't really hold up that well.
Yeah, I mean, he's not an amazing writer, you know. He's just writing. He's coming up with premises so that he can draw cool stuff, and you know, that's all that really matters in those books.
Yeah,
but you know, we lead the show with that. You know, it's old news now. You can't really jump on this Kickstarter. It's an amazing Kickstarter. It's a great thing for comic books. Even in this economy, it's you know, it's fantastic. I think that this is happening, and to me, you know, he's kind of like the ultimate anti-hero in comics. And I can kind of see why, you know, he came up with this character in a lot of ways. Like a lot of people like, you know, they pick on the Image guys because they basically replicated a character that they were working on at Marvel, you know, like from, you know, the Hulk turned into the Pit, Spidey turned into Spawn, you know, like and then like X-Force turned into Youngblood, and then Jim Lee also worked on a book that was all team members.
Wildcats, yeah.
Yeah, the Wildcats, yeah. So, but like, you know, Spider-Man's like the most wholesome character that you could possibly come up with, at least in the Marvel universe, right? Like, I think it's debatable. Like, he's just, you know, he's apple pie in America. Well, aside from Captain America. And so I can see like, and with that first initial Spider-Man title, it seemed like he was trying to make Spider-Man a little more dark.
Oh yeah.
I don't think you know, and that's the first.
That's why I'm not that big of a fan of it.
Yeah, yeah. And so I can see why he went so far the other way to make this like such an extreme, like dark, scary, bad guy, good guy, anti-hero. So he kind of epitomizes that to me.
Spawn, yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm not big into him, but when you talk about it like that, I mean, he is a literal soldier in the army of Satan.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it doesn't get much more villainous than that.
He has sold his soul.
Yeah. Not to me, because I love Satan. You know.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, that's the ultimate hero.
Yeah. If you guys, it's kind of funny if you just go out to Wikipedia and look up like just how they define anti-hero. It's they say it's a main character in a story who lacks conventional heroic qualities and attributes such as idealism, courage, and morality. And I never really thought as simple as that. But
I was like, yesterday when Dave pitched the idea, that was worded better than what I thought of. But you know, it's pretty much just means a character that when you first see them initially looks like a villain.
Yeah.
And then probably kills people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. It's such a fun place to dabble in with stories, I think, because it just, when you don't have a code for your main character and you don't know what to expect out of them, it's just more variables to play with. And it's also that's just more unpredictable stuff, more conflict.
Yeah.
I can see why writers are drawn to that. It's much harder probably to write a character who has the strict moral code.
Well, I mean, when you say anti-hero, to me, my first mindset goes to Punisher.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I don't want to dive too much into him. I was thinking maybe we could have Justin on and we can all talk about Punisher.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's the ultimate. And it goes to what I was just saying. You know, he first shows up and his first appearance, his cover appearance is him shooting Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You know, enough said on that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't really I was sitting there again. How did it get brought up yesterday? We were talking about I don't know, my memory's that bad. But we brought up a specific character, and like, Moon Knight and stuff like that. That one always walked the line for me because there were certain series that turned him into, like, he went a little bit too far type thing. And that, I guess, is like you were saying, what draws the line between hero and anti-hero.
Yeah.
But someone like, remember like Shadowhawk from Image?
Sure.
Who literally, like, his shtick was like, I don't kill people, I cripple them.
Yeah, it's so great. It's so great.
It was like, I'm just going to punch you in the spine hard enough to cripple you.
Yeah, and you're going to have to live with the consequences of your actions.
Which to me, that's almost like a step further than like a Punisher who just puts a bullet in your head.
Yeah, yeah.
It is kind of worse, right?
Didn't the Punisher put a bag of pee on somebody's face once?
You got a bag of pee?
Did that happen in Warzone or something? Warzone? Didn't he put a bag of pee over a guy's head?
Oh, you talking about in the movie? Or
in the comic?
I don't remember a bag of pee. I mean, he tortured a guy with a popsicle.
No, I'm pretty sure the Punisher put a bag of
Let me guess.
pee on someone's face.
Did he put it in his butt, Jason?
He did not put it in his butt.
How do you torture someone with a popsicle and not put it in their butt?
Because he was telling them that it was like a really hot piece of metal. And, it was in the movie. It was in the Thomas Jane movie.
Yeah. Oh, that's
they replicated.
I don't know why or he just ate it and wouldn't share it with a guy. He's like, this is a good popsicle.
This is really good. I have 2 of them. Maybe I'll have both.
It was twin pop. I broke it in half.
They should market those. Punisher piss popsicles.
I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to read every goddamn issue of Punisher Warzone I have.
Yeah.
And look for this bag of pee torture.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a guy in a chair. He's like tied to a chair and he throws a bag of piss on his head or something.
Isn't it like a shop?
Now we're doing levels of anti-hero where it's like, to me now, Punisher just went beyond Shadowhawk. Like, oh, geez, it goes shooting him in the head, crippling him, and then throwing a bag of pee at them.
Yeah.
That's top tier.
But going back to what Freddy was saying, he makes a good point. I wonder what's more difficult, I find as an artist or a graphic designer, whenever I'm working within limitations, I get more creative, right? Limitations make you think more creatively.
Yeah.
Period, right? So following those guidelines, if you have a character like Captain America who can never fucking break the rules for any reason, he is, the epitome of grandma's apple pie and baseball, is that a more difficult character to write for, and
sure.
Does it open up doors for more broader, more intense, more complex storylines? Because, sure, Shadowhawk, it's almost like the B movie heavy metal, like horror world. And don't get me wrong, I don't want people to get upset. I love all those genres that I just listed off. But is it just really fucking easy for Shadowhawk to run around punching people in their spine? And
well, yeah, I mean, that's like one of the things really is, of course, we're going down a moral debate, and yeah, it would be
not
easy.
Even that. It's just like what makes for the best story. I think that we're all like ex-punk rock kids, and we have a slightly alternative mindset or whatever. We like the indie world, and it's cool to like the anti-hero, right?
Sure.
But
what I find super fascinating is that Batman crossed that line. He was both,
right.
And you have the early the Batman I grew up on was the Goody Two Shoes Adam West Batman.
Exactly, yeah.
And then even Tim Burton's Batman really wasn't an anti-hero yet necessarily. He was flirting with it a little bit because
but he did kill a lot of guys in that movie.
He had a scary, dark intensity, but when it came down to it, he was pretty straight and moral. Well, no, he wasn't, because it was all about
he killed
revenge.
A lot of people in that movie.
But his whole character was based on revenge, really, ultimately.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, it was
but I mean, go ahead, Freddy. I want to.
Well, no, I mean,
your thought.
I just didn't feel like, I think it was probably the Frank Miller stuff that really kind of brought him over completely into the anti-hero territory, where you didn't know where he was an unstable character, I guess is what I'm trying to say, where he's this blatantly unstable figure that could do anything.
My Batman will always be the classic gray and blue Batman. That's my all-time favorite Batman. But yeah, I get what you're saying. But and even in that though, even in The Dark Knight Returns, he was very much against killing.
Yeah.
At the end when he takes over the gangs of Gotham and he breaks the guns in front of them and says, this is the enemy of the weapon, or the enemy of the weapon, you fucking idiot. The weapon of the enemy. And all that, he apparently is firing rubber bullets out of his giant bat tank.
Well,
even in that, he refused to cross the line.
Well, I also, he did. I guess he has an internal code of some kind. Like, if you kind of strip that away, though, it just makes me think about, is killing the line that defines an anti-hero or not? Because I feel like in other stories, you could have somebody. I think a good example is on the show Fleabag. I don't know if you guys have ever watched that, but that's a comedy where the main character is an anti-hero because she's just so damn selfish. You know what I mean? You're still rooting for this person, but you have this selfish through line. Like everything she does is pretty much wrapped up in what she needs, what's going on in her head. And I think that a lot of that adult style of writing is what I think appealed to a lot of people, like in the 90s comic writing and stuff. They wanted to write those kind of complex characters, and they brought stuff from film and television into comic.
I sit there and I think about I'm again moving around trying to find something in my vast comic book room. I can't find it. Alan Moore's book, Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. It was at the end of, because Alan Moore, he's one of those dark writers, as people want to say. He was one of the people that ushered in, adult themes and stuff. Right. His all-time favorite character is Silver Age Superman. Right. That is the definition of wholesome character. And the whole point of Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow was when DC did the Crisis on Infinite Earth storyline, and they told Alan Moore, hey, do you want to basically wrap up Silver Age Superman's entire career? And so he wrote the story. Long story short, at the end, Mr. Mxyzptlk shows up and starts killing people, and Superman ends up killing Mr. Mxyzptlk. And so he goes and he strips himself of all of his power because he says no one has the right to kill, not even Superman. It was wrong for me to even do that, even though I saved X amount of lives killing him. Yeah.
And I think he nailed it on the head. That's how you do it. That's how you do it with a character like that. And that's how you broaden their experience and their motivation and their character while still working within the confines of the rules of who they are. It's kind of fun.
Oh, look, there it is.
There it is.
I guess
so then, we could nitpick this for days and days and days and hours, but we could list off some. Is Conan an anti-hero? Do you think
Oh, absolutely. I think big time.
Oh, that's tough. That's a tough one.
Is he even a hero?
Conan's nothing. He doesn't have a title.
But he's
whatever he needs to be.
That's what makes him an anti-hero. I think some people, when they think of the term anti-hero, they're hung up on the part that says hero, and they think that it means that they have to have. It means
they have to have a cape
or something. Yeah, anti-hero to me is just literally. It's really a kind of almost a term for another term for everyman, where you have somebody who is not, it's somebody who doesn't stand for something.
I get what you're saying. I mean, Conan to me is a character though that's just, and I know the more I say it, the more it goes into what you're already saying, but Conan is whatever he needs to be.
Yeah.
However, but Freddy's the anti-hero doesn't have to answer to a quote unquote code, right?
Right. Yeah.
Conan sure as fuck has a code.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
What kind of
every thinking character that you're going to write has some sort of internal logic they have to follow. Because
Yeah.
if they don't, then they're not really a well-defined character.
to
But
go into
yeah.
how I think it kind of got brought up on yesterday's episode. Now I'm thinking about it. Dave and I were talking about two different things, but they do kind of bleed together. There was a trend in the 90s when it was cool to take villains and turn them into heroes
Right.
or good guys.
Right.
And the opposite somewhat happened, where it's kind of like you're taking characters, like I'm looking at this comic book right here in front of me, where it's Superman fighting Lobo, and that was a prime example where Lobo was a bad dude, but then after he's been around for so long, it's kind of like, let's have him join some teams,
Yeah,
some
which was
superhero
weird.
teams,
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Because like the way I saw it, I never really saw Lobo as an anti-hero. I saw Lobo as a bad guy, straight up, and he's just the main. He's in the place of the protagonist, just because it's his book and he's the main.
But yeah,
character.
I was gonna say that's like Lobo started
It's
a whole
not that much
trend.
different than the Planet of the Apes book.
Yeah.
This is just the perspective of the bad guy, and you may or may not, kind of identify with some of his choices, but this is his story. And I think that's what Lobo
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, that's a good way
But
of putting
you're
it.
right, because of his popularity and the way that he just kind of transformed, maybe because of monetary reasons, he suddenly becomes a quote unquote, anti-hero good guy. But to me, he's always been a bad guy.
To me, the two biggest examples, we've ignored the two biggest examples, I think, because none of us are huge fans, but Deadpool and Harley Quinn would be the big ones.
Yeah. I guess you're right. Yeah.
Deadpool, when he showed up, Deadpool was a hired assassin mercenary who just killed.
Yeah.
He'd crack a joke here and there, and then, like you said, popularity kicks in, and it's like, well, we can't promote just a straight up bad guy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Harley Quinn.
So, like, when a bad guy gets really popular, they have to transform him and give him some kind of redeeming qualities so that they can, mass market him as much and run with it as much as they can at the time while it's still hot.
And sometimes that can be really satisfying, I think, for an audience when you have a villain that you really like, who change. You see them go through a change, and they become this dynamic character.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking specifically right now, I'm thinking of like the character Spike on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Okay.
He's like the big bad in one season, and then as it progresses, that character evolves,
right,
and becomes like a fan favorite character. So, and also a good heroic character, but you never would have expected that when they introduce him,
right?
And I think that, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
Well, I mean, the fact is
of it too, where it's a money grab.
Yeah.
The more we talk about it, the more I start thinking about how comic books in general have done that, and that's where you do bleed the lines. Like, I saw my reflection. I'm wearing a Sinestro shirt. Sinestro back in the, original Green Lantern comics was the most stereotypical mustache twirling, I'm bad because I'm bad,
right,
type thing. And I think just through storytelling, writers have realized they have to have some sort of character arc in there to make you at least identify a little bit with the bad guy.
Yeah, and like you were just saying before with Superman, like on the flip side, good guys were good guys because they're good. Everything was much more simple now, and now we're all craving more, complex stories. Did you guys ever read Fool Killer in the 90s?
Yes.
I haven't. Actually,
it's been a long time since I have, but yeah.
I've got that coming up.
I think it's getting a lot of momentum now. It's like a dollar bin book. There it is.
Damn, that was quick.
It's been years. It's been years since I've read it. But from what I remember, I think I revisited it a few years ago. It's a really fun book, like super overlooked in the 90s. I don't think many people read it, but this dude basically calls all criminals fools.
Is it Mr. T?
You took my
He
joke.
pities them all. He's got a group of gymnastic Olympian children that follow him around everywhere.
Really?
No.
I'm like, it is Mr. T.
But the Mr. T did in the Mr. T cartoon, remember?
Oh, I remember I was a huge Mr. T fan.
Yeah. What were their names?
A Mr. T episode.
What were the children's names?
Oh, Joe.
No, not specifically, but they were called something. Like the group of kids, the gymnastic kids were called.
I have no clue.
I'll look it up for you when.
It's like the super teens or something ridiculous. But anyway, Fool Killer, and so he like gives people like a calling card before he kills them. That basically says like, this is the last 24 hours of your life, and you know you can repent or use your last hours of your life wisely, or you know, and then he kills them. And it's a fun book.
I think even before this, like, there's been a few different versions of Fool Killer, which again, that's like one of the most obscure characters I've ever heard brought up.
There's been different versions of Fool Killer?
There was one in the 90s or very late 80s, very early 90s, or even before this one, that looked almost like he was wearing like a zipper mask.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it was like all the same thing. Like Fool Killer started in Steve Gerber's Man-Thing.
Oh, I had no idea.
And, yeah, like because those are the ones I've read where, yeah, again, Steve Gerber was known for creating kind of satirical parody characters. But yeah, the guy shows up and just starts calling everyone a fool. Was that a foolish move on your part? Because if it was, I will kill you type thing.
I want you to
great.
What you did.
What?
Are you still searching, Freddy?
I said I want you to think about what you did, but yeah, I'm still looking for the name of the.
This is the longest train of thought anyone has ever given this topic.
Yeah, probably.
And so, you know, this whole conversation started with me doing my rant about the X-Men being good bad guys, you know, and Magneto. So we already have like them covered.
Well, it's funny you say that. I remember I got into a pretty big debate with a friend a while ago about whether or not Magneto was a villain.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was at the time, this was a long time ago, but at the time I was full on like, Magneto has killed human beings just to make a point.
Right.
Like that is the act of a villain.
Did he ever hang out next to a giant letter T just for fun?
No, but he did definitely hang out next to a giant letter M.
With a bunch of children and a bulldog?
The bulldog also has a mohawk. I don't know if you can see
well, of course, it's Mr. T's dog.
That bulldog used to be a misunderstood teenager until his mutant powers kicked in.
I love it.
Oh boy! So this was on Cartoon Express. I don't know if you guys remember.
Yeah, Cartoon
I
Express.
absolutely remember that.
Fuck.
It was awesome. So Mr. T is the coach of these gymnast kids.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm just looking to see if I can find any rhyme or reason to this. There's Mrs. Priscilla Bisbee, who's the other adult in the picture, I think. There's Jeff Harris, who's the wise guy with a big ego. Hi. There's Woody Daniels, who was voiced by Phil Lamar.
Wow. How about that?
Yeah.
He's done a lot of voice work in the cartoon world. I had no idea. I saw like a short documentary about him a while ago, and I was like, wow, I had no idea how like involved this dude was. Oh, good morning, Xavier.
Hi, Xavier.
Xavier, say hi to the world.
Hi.
And hi to the guys.
Does Xavier know who Mr. T is?
Do you know who Mr. T is? Wow.
Oh,
that's crazy, right?
Well, you know what your job for the day is, right, Dave?
Yeah, you're gonna find out who Mr. T is by the end of the day.
Okay.
All right.
That's your homeschooling project.
Okay.
Great Americans. Yeah, let's see. There's Kim Nakamura, Spike O'Neill, Sky Redfern, Garcia Lopez, Vince D'Amato. This is a very diverse group.
Yeah, that's wild. Well, that's what that show was all about, right?
Yeah. It's like the Rainbow Coalition. Courtney Howard, Grant Klein, and Bulldozer is the dog.
I love that we had to interview Jason's big rant on anti-heroes to go through the cast of Mr. T.
No, that's
there are more important things at hand right now, Jason. Let's figure out who was on the Mr. T cartoon.
Do you have any of the comics, Jason? I feel like one of you two probably has the comics.
I'd be shocked if Dave doesn't have Mr. T and the T-Force.
Yeah, I've got to. I'm pretty sure I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So much fun.
In fact, I'll go so far as to say I would be disappointed in Dave if he didn't have that.
I love that you guys appreciate my style of comic books. I love it.
Yeah, it's the same sort of stuff I like. Fool Killer. There he is.
Fool Killer. Yeah, so that was it. Fool Killer.
Yep.
He kills fools.
He pities them.
Read it. It's a good read.
I think we've solved it. There you go. Anti-heroes are fool killers, and Mr. T has a group bunch of kids.
Is Mr. T an anti-hero? Does he always pity fools, or sometimes does he just kill them straight out? We don't know.
I would pay a lot of money for a Mr. T comic where he just killed people.
That's
I pity the fool.
Frank Miller's Mr. T.
Oh, that would be so fucking good. Holy shit. We should do an unlicensed comic book about fucking Mr. T the killer. That'd be so good.
Or one just about fucking Mr. T.
Fucking Mr. T.
Have you guys ever seen the
T style.
The Mr. T Christmas special thing he did with Webster?
No.
Webster's the lost little boy and Mr. T is like a store security guard.
No, that sounds awesome.
I think I might still have it somewhere, but I think it's on YouTube.
Yeah.
We watched it as one of our meetups that we do on Thursdays. It was one
that I don't show up to, yeah.
That you guys never, but that's okay. You have families.
Too good for it, actually. Is what
it is. All it is, you're just too good.
I don't have a family. I've been lying this whole time.
You ate them?
I just never had one.
Yeah.
They're just paid actors that show up every once in a while in these.
I give that kid $5 to mow my lawn, and he comes in and calls me daddy.
Oh, it's like Gods and Monsters. Actually, I got to go to the day job here. So is there anything you guys want to do to wrap up Antiheroes, or do you want to continue this conversation?
We can.
On a future episode or what?
Tomorrow?
Sure.
Tomorrow I have a plumber coming, but I think I can still do it.
He's going to be there to plumb?
He's going to plumb the shit out of me.
He's going to plumb your flower?
I'm getting my water heater replaced, which is literally on the other side of the wall of the studio here.
Oh, fun.
So I don't know if it's going to be too loud to do a show, or it might just be funny to do it anyway.
That might be funny. It can't be any worse than screaming children.
Right. But I would say hopefully we can. We'll see what happens. Maybe we can give it a shot. See what. All right. That's right. I'll play some music.
Bye.